Thanks everyone, we might get a start. Firstly, welcome to this afternoon. My name is Mr. Brendan Downs and I'm the head of primary here at Padua College. The purpose for this evening, more than anything else, is to give you, that information that really gets you started here. Things like uniforms, what a book list look like, those sorts of things. So we hope that you go away from this afternoon feeling as though you have that under control, you know what's actually happening, because as much as we're very conscious that your boys might feel a little bit nervous about coming to a new school, we're also conscious that you as parents, particularly if you're new to Padua, might also be feeling that as well, and therefore the more information we can give you, hopefully that eases that a little bit. We're always conscious though, when you start a new school, there's so much information that we need to provide you. So we're very, very conscious that sometimes it can be information overload. So even this evening, what we'll do from here is, after the presentation, tomorrow, we'll send this presentation out via email to you so you can go through it at your own pace. So welcome to the graduating class of 2028. Quite hard to believe. And it goes really, really quickly. As somebody who's just had a son who's graduated last week, I can't believe how quickly that time goes. We'll start, however, with a prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Blessed is the child who has someone who believes in them and has high hopes for them. Blessed is the child who has someone to whom he can carry his problems unafraid. Blessed is the child whose home is a haven for happiness. Blessed is the child who is allowed to pursue their curiosity into every worthwhile field of information. Blessed is the child who is led gently by the hand along the pathway of life by someone who is a guide, companion, and inspiration. Blessed is the child whose imagination has been turned into channels of creative effort. Blessed is the child whose efforts to achieve have found encouragement. Blessed is the child who is encouraged to look beyond the material things of life to see the spiritual strand which adds eternal meaning. And blessed is the home and community which teaches the child the hope and the truth and dedicates itself to the realisation of hope. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Before we start the official proceedings of the night, however, I thought I might make some introductions. Now, again, tonight, and when you return for your first day of Padua, you'll meet many, many people, and so we appreciate that you won't always remember them, but it's certainly worthwhile with the introductions. So if I could actually start with Mr. Simon Stour. Mr. Stour is our Vice Rector Administration. Have Mr. O'Brien, and Mr. O'Brien is our Vice Rector Formation. Mr. Pacey, there he is, Vice Rector Teaching and Learning. Mr. Ben Lowry, Vice Rector Pastoral Care, he gives his apologies for tonight. Mr. Barry Keegan is our Business Manager. Have Scott Maguire, who is our Director of Sport. Tanya Anderson is our Director of Pedagogy and Digital Integration. Tanya tells me that's changing the title for next year, and I'm quite glad about that, Tanya, so thank you. We have Chris Webb. So Chris is our Pastoral Guardian for Year 5 in 2021, and then he takes your boys into 2022 as his Year 6 Guardian. So if we talk about the boys that will have, or the staff that have lots to do with your boys, Chris is probably one of those very, very key people. And finally, and last but not least, Peter, I left you last for a reason, I'd like you to welcome Mr. Peter Elmore, please, our Rector of the College.
Thanks, Brendan, and thanks everyone for the warm welcome, and I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you. I hope it's been a good year for you. Tonight's one of excitement for all of us as we welcome the graduating class, as Brendan said, of 2028. My goodness, long way away, isn't it? But I wanted to really, I suppose, say that by way of last week we graduated the good men of the class of 2020. And what a wonderful week it was for us to share that with their parents. As we begin this journey, well certainly as I begin this journey, I begin with the end in mind and in graduating good men from Padua College. And I'm certainly hopeful and very much in that vein when we talk to you tonight. Transitions are challenging, aren't they? There's much excitement around them, and also a degree of nerves. And we certainly saw that when your sons arrived here for their orientation day. Many who I asked, I said, "Are you excited?" "Yes." "We're excited." "Nervous?" "No." But we knew deep down there were some nerves. Look, I appreciate that even for parents that is also the case. And tonight is about those practical matters. We sent out a survey, some questions, and our hope is that you leave here with fewer questions than you arrived. Not a bad hope, is it? That's the plan. But I would like to make a couple of points in the mix of all of those practical matters. And there are 2 points that I would like, or key messages that I'd like you to leave with tonight. The first one is that without any arrogance, we know boys' education. It's been happening here since 1956. We do it around our teachers, our subject offerings, our co-curricular offerings. All of those are integrated to turn out good men, well-rounded young men, and that's important. So the first thing I want you to understand is, yes, boys' education is done well here at Padua. The second thing I want you to leave with is the fact that relationships matter. Whilst this school may be larger than your primary school, can I say at the heart of a Franciscan education are relationships and the importance of relationships. And they're even more important as boys journey through those adolescent years, keeping them connected. And as our graduating class of 2020 left, the most significant thing for them was the significant relationships that we had with teachers and staff here at Padua. And so I'm very, very grateful for the work that happens in that space. We're also very privileged to share that journey with you. As educators, we're blessed to work in that space. And Brendan's prayer tonight was really about that, sharing that relationship with parents. So I say welcome. Remember my 2 take-home messages. We know boys' education, and secondly, relationships matter. And finally, we want to make sure that you leave here knowing all of those things that you turned up with, all of those questions. And if you don't get them by way of the presentation, we'll certainly stay behind to answer specific questions as well. Thank you very much.
Some of you, if you're on Facebook, follow our Facebook page, may have seen this photo, but this is our graduating seniors at their Vale liturgy last Friday, where they got to say goodbye to the rest of the school community. I put that up there because while they say goodbye and we farewell them, we're now welcoming your sons as the newest Paduans. And for that, we're obviously really excited. Peter already mentioned that concept of good men of Padua. And over the next 8 years, you'll probably hear that term a number of times because we refer to the boys quite regularly as this good men of Padua, and that's what we're striving to be. The question, I guess, remains is, what is a good man of Padua? Well, we like to think of he's someone who looks service for others, someone who's respectful, and someone who contributes to society. And while that happens in all parts of the college, it actually strongly comes through in our classrooms and our pedagogy and what happens in those classrooms. So if you have a look at the learning framework that's in front of you now, it talks about developing young men who are self-directed learners. That is, they want to learn. They see learning as purposeful. They see where it's getting them. It talks around resilience. It talks about positive relationship builders. And then if we take that a step further, when we look at what happens in our classrooms, we talk about challenging our boys, because boys need and want to be challenged. And we certainly want to challenge the boys to get the best out of them. Employers, research now tells us that more than anything else, employers of the future are looking for people who are creative and critical thinkers, problem solvers. People who are able to collaborate, teamwork. So again, if you have a look at the learning framework, that comes through really strongly there. So I guess the question is, what happens at Padua that might be different to what's currently happening at your school that actually achieves this and obviously supports that purpose of developing that good young man of Padua? Our classrooms may be very different looking, and I'll go into that very soon. But what we really focus on, first of all, more than anything else, is this concept of student-centred learning. So when you walk into a classroom on Greccio campus in grade 5 next year, you shouldn't see a teacher that stands up and preaches for 15, 20 minutes because they have all the knowledge. What you should see is a teacher who gives short, sharp instructions and then passes the learning over to your boy and then guides and facilitates that learning. That's incredibly important. If we stand up there and preach for 20 minutes, we lost your sons after about 5. And in some cases, I imagine you're thinking at home, it's less than 5. So we want to make sure we really engage them. How do we do that? Goal setting. If you walk into our classrooms, you'll see reading goals, you'll see writing goals. You'll see boys that are striving. We have a program called AR around our reading. Boys who are striving for, maybe it's 30,000 words that term. And we talk to the boys about these goals. When I talk about pastoral care again soon, I will actually sort of talk about the same sort of thing, goals around our behaviour. So we look at that. We look at the boys becoming peer tutors. We call them critical friends, where they know exactly what's needed in their learning, so they know what a good sentence even looks like if we take it down to that level, and they can give feedback to the person next to them. They're a critical friend. And they'll come home and they'll talk about WWWs and EBIs. What went well? And I could be even better if. So we've got these boys that are really engaged in the learning process rather than these passive learners who we fill up with information and then they just give it straight back to us. We want to challenge them. We want them thinking for themselves. We want them becoming responsible learners. So we don't move away though, and we talk around inquiry-based learning. So inquiry-based learning is, and you might hear it sometimes as project-based learning. It's giving authentic problems. So the little photo there up on the screen, that occurred last Wednesday, where our grade 5 boys had to come up with an environmental issue and they had to develop a protest around that issue. If you went over to our, what we call our dome, our outdoor sports area across the road, they had their banners, they had printed t-shirts, they had their megaphones that was giving me a headache, but they were passionate about that learning. If you go to grade 6, you'll see this year they had to give a Shark Tank pitch, the TV Shark Tank. And it was how to improve the livability of people in developing countries. So we take we have to follow the curriculum, but then we take the curriculum, we make it real for the boys. So therefore they become quite passionate about their learning. But it's not all about collaboration, and it's not all about teamwork, because we can't ever forget the basics of literacy and numeracy. So in our classrooms, when you walk into our classrooms, you'll see 1 hour a day focused on literacy, where we have up to 5 staff members in a shared space, and I'll talk about the shared spaces really soon, all focusing on the needs of your son. We'll have a speech pathologist in there, and that speech pathologist will be working with the boys who need that sort of help and assistance. We'll have a teacher who's extending your son. So we've seen that your son needs extended in reading, and this teacher is there for that. And we have the other teachers as well that focus on that personalised learning. So it's a big investment. We're talking 5 teachers in that room at that point in time. Bring the library staff in there and you can have 6 at a time. So we look at a ratio around about, and I'll talk that shared space soon, around about 1:10, 1:12 per teacher there. That happens once a day. We think that's really important. And our results were quite incredible this year with the improvement that we saw. Maths is the same. We put another teacher in those classrooms and we put them in there, again, to make sure that we extend the boys who need extending and we support the boys who need supporting. So each unit, they have a pre-test and then they're split into their different groups based on their results of their pre-tests. So if you have a son there that needs extending in maths, we're extending him in maths. If you have a son that needs supporting in maths, we're supporting him in maths. And obviously if you have a son there that's close to extension or just beyond that support, we're actually pushing him to as good as he can be too. The other thing we talk about is innovative learning environments. So our classrooms, if you haven't already seen them, they look different. Now, many schools are moving this way. I guess what we're most proud of is it's not just about the fancy looking classroom. The furniture looks fantastic and you walk into a classroom and it looks amazing. But it's so much more than that. The furniture is there for a reason. Our teachers have had to change completely what they do. So we walk into another teacher's classroom, once a fortnight I'll take some teachers with me and we walk in there. If that teacher is speaking for more than 5 minutes, we challenge them about that. Because we're saying, no, we want to change our pedagogy. We want to make sure that we want boys who are active, engaged learners. The other thing about the furniture, it enables the boys to sit where they want. Now there's obviously some responsibility that comes with that, as I'm sure you can imagine. But it also gets them to choose the furniture they want. So the other day I walked into a classroom and it's a high bench and they were sitting up on stools, but then one boy wasn't on a stool at all. He was standing and he was working because that's his preference. Remember, boys, that ability to move around. If you have a look at our seating, the seating rocks back and forth. Not the chairs themselves, of course, but the seating rocks back and forth because, again, boys are going to want to move around in this type of classroom environment. It allows a combination of that contemporary learning that I've spoken about, but very much we don't forget the traditional learning. There needs to be a balance between the two. So that may be a little bit of a change when you walk in. Hopefully you're excited by it because every time I walk into a classroom I'm impressed with how engaged the boys are. When you get the chance to walk into a classroom, hopefully you see the same. I'm now going to ask Mr. Scott Maguire, our Director of Sport. He's going to have a few words. That one might change, but that one will. The arrow? Yep. Can't see.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Brendan just said, my name is Mr. Scott Maguire. I'm the Head of Sport here at Padua College. And I'm just going to quickly go through just a few, mainly in relation to the number of emails that we've received lately, just details of what's happening over the next couple of months before the boys tend to arrive here back for Year 5. Padua is a member of what's called the AIC, Associated Independent Colleges. The AIC Charter says that learning and growth through sport and competition. There are 8 schools in this formal competition and these matches are played on a rotational basis. We have Iona College from Lyndon, Morris College from Ashgrove, St Edmunds College Ipswich, St Lawrence's College at South Brisbane, St Patrick's College Shorncliffe, St Peter's Lutheran College at Indooroopilly and Villanova College Coorparoo. It's a pretty detailed sports program. Latest count, 16 sports, 250 plus teams in a calendar year. Within all these sports, all students of various abilities are catered for. The college values sport as an important means of developing essential lifelong physical skills, some positive attitudes and obviously healthy behaviours. School sport should be an inclusive form of physical activity. It should be strategically aligned with health and development benefits for all students. It should engage as many students as possible for as long as possible. The priority for schools should be to develop healthy, high-performing people, not high-performing athletes. School sport can and should be a highlight in the educational experience for youth, potentially enhancing physical, social and cultural development. At Padua, parents are strongly encouraged to be part of the sporting program. We have a group of parents in the PSG, the Padua Supporters Group, who work hand in hand with the sports department. They meet on a regular basis to enhance what is happening within the sports program. Having parents on board not only enhances the program, but it also sends a really good sense of community. This year has been a year like no other, we know that, and sport has been one of those things that the boys have really missed at school. Fortunately, we were lucky enough to get some sport, but the program as we knew it certainly changed a lot this year. So fingers crossed, moving forward, hopefully we're in a place next year where we can experience a full program of sport. Before I continue with a few more things, I also want to make it very clear that we have also a cultural co-curricular program as well, which is fully in depth with music and the arts, debating, chess, and plenty of other activities as well. So when you do look at our co-curricular program, I think there is something there for absolutely everybody. Just quickly go through the sports that we do play. And I just want to make some comments about some of these sports too, because these are probably around many of the emails that we received just in recent times. In term one, it's swimming, cricket, volleyball and AFL. I know we talk about inclusive and everybody having an opportunity, but with some sports, mainly because of venues, facilities, time in a day, some sports we cannot offer opportunities to everybody. And I do know for a fact that there are some people sitting here now, and your sons included, a little bit disappointed and say missing out on an AFL team. And we certainly understand that. And we are working really hard here at Padua and as an association to try and improve that, where we can actually have more teams playing in that competition. Once your son gets into year 7, volleyball is also an AIC sport, and we have some of the same problems there as well, where sport, we can only pick a certain number of teams, and so some boys do miss out. But we worked really hard here at school to continue that experience, and we'll try and run some inner-house competitions along that line. In term 2, we have rugby union, football, soccer and cross-country. That's open to everybody, and they are based on their abilities. And in term 3, we have basketball, tennis, rugby league and track and field. And again, basketball, tennis and rugby league numbers are capped. We certainly can't give those opportunities to everybody. But again, we are working really hard to encourage other schools and the association to expand those competitions. As well as those, we offer other sports such as hockey, water polo, golf, and as of next year, touch football. Probably something you're already aware of is the amount of information that gets sent through. Get ready, there'll be more and more and more, particularly at the beginning of next year. So all I can say is your best friend for quite a while will be the Padua app. Don't rely, as you're probably fully aware, don't rely on a 10-year-old to come home and give you the exact correct information. That's why we have the app. We don't photocopy sheets of paper and hand it out to all the kids at school. We use the app as our #1 provider of information, so it is really important that you keep up to date with that. And it's pretty easy, just download it, go to the sports that your sons may be playing or cultural events you might be involved in, and you'll receive immediate alerts to any changes, to any draws, to schedules, team lists, whatever it may be. My Padua is the same. It's a sports tile. It has pretty much all the documents, bylaws, Inside Padua Sport, which is sent out each week, which just updates all the schedules. In regards to transportation, for some of our events we do offer transportation, obviously by buses, but most of our Saturday sport, parents are expected to take their own sons to those locations. Each of the sports have a uniform. That's fairly clear on our website, but it's also nutted out in also the overview that was sent out to you a little while ago as well. I won't go through all of those. Sports department at the moment is made up of 6 people. I'm the head of sport. Michael Out is the assistant head of sport, and he'll be the year 5 to 8 sports coordinator. We also have a sports development and performance coordinator, which currently is Mr. Gerard Parle. We also have a head of athletic development, and that is Sam Toulis. He runs the gym program. Our sports administrator is Mrs. Tamika Stagg, and our head swim coach is Mr. Kirk Taylor. Just a little bit about our athletic development, strength and conditioning program, which can start with year 5. And it's not necessarily for those boys that are heavily involved in sport. We encourage all boys to get involved into this program. It's a program that looks at functional strength and movement. And the aim of the session is to improve the students' basic movement competency, which includes mobility, coordination, balance, posture, strength, and overall physical ability. Early in 2021, Sam Toulis, the Head of Athletic Performance and Development here, will send an email out to Year 5s to see who and to register for those programs. They run before and after school. They're about 30 to 40-minute sessions. They're all functional strength and movement programs. We're not lifting any weights and not doing anything that would be seen as dangerous. It's the boys just getting to know how to use their bodies properly in a physical sense. We also have an elite athlete program, but that's a little bit later on in there as they get through the school. And that's a program where we assist those boys that are playing at a fairly high level or might be playing multiple sports and might need a little bit of guidance with fitting in study and other events around school as well. And we meet with those on a regular basis. Talked about swimming at Padua. We've had some great additions to the swim team lately with Mrs. Christine Raleigh and Mr. Peter Dale is an ex-Olympian and old boy. They're now looking after our swim program with Mr. Kirk Taylor. So if anyone out there is really interested, we have Learn to Swim program, we have a squad program, we have an adult masters program, and we also have a swim club here at the school as well called United Swim Club. So if you are interested, just contact any of those people. Again, that information sits on the overview. Over the holidays, we will have a number of clinics and training sessions. Again, they will be posted on the app. They are not compulsory. However, if you're not on holidays and you're around and it's possible, we strongly encourage the boys to attend those events. Not only does it work nicely into the seasons that we're about to start, it's also a great another opportunity for them to meet some other Year 5 boys that they'll be mates with over the next 8 years. We also have some trials for Term 1 Sport on January 23, and that information will be sent out to you as soon as we possibly can. That's a quick snapshot of sport. It's not everything. It's not even close to being everything. However, if you've got any questions about sport, any concerns, please just contact the Sports Department. I also will hang around here for a while after we're finished tonight. If you've got any questions you'd just like to ask personally, I'm happy to answer those. I already know many of you here in the room just through either sons here or knowing you also, but I just want to really welcome those first timers to Padua College. I hope you enjoy your experience here. Thanks very much. See you later.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanya Anderson and I'm the Head of Pedagogy and Digital Integration here at the College, and I'd like to welcome you this evening. As an integral part of Padua's contemporary learning environment, technology offers flexibility, accessibility and opportunities for collaboration and innovation in our learning. To support this anytime, anywhere learning, we provide students with a laptop as part of our college laptop program. This program is aligned to the phases of learning in the college, providing access to this important learning tool to support your son through belonging, becoming and being a good man of Padua, and is also supported by our college IT help desk. Further details regarding how this program supports your son's educational journey will be covered as part of the Year 5 Parent Information Night on the 2nd of February next year. For tonight's information, I just want to cover the process for you for leading into the end of the year. Last week, you will have received an email outlining the program. This will be followed by a second email this week, which contains a link to complete an e-form indicating your acceptance of your son's participation in the college program. At the start of next year, a laptop will be allocated for your son, and you will collect this on his behalf as part of that parent information evening in February. In mid-January, those parents who are new to the college will receive another email with information containing your login details and a temporary password to access the college's online resources. Scott Maguire referred to this as My Padua. When you first log in, you will have the option to view a short tour of the homepage. Further information about finding your way around this resource will be provided once you have access next year. My Padua is how our boys also access a range of learning experiences, daily notices, the college's online calendar, We also provide students with an Office 365 education subscription, printing services and a school email account. This is a lot of technology for our young men, some of whom are used to it from our primary schools and some of whom are not. To support students and parents in this journey, Padua College is registered as an eSmart school. eSmart is an initiative of the Alana and Madeline Foundation that works with school staff and the greater community to educate and manage cyber risks, bullying, cyberbullying, and general issues relating to technology to make our students feel safer and supported. It's also designed to support parents in that journey. Information on these topics is always available through our bulletin. We also offer parent engagement nights that cover some of these topics with outside speakers to support you in educating and empowering our young men. Thank you for coming tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll hand back to Brendan.
Okay, thanks, and thank you to Tanya and Scott. We've talked around learning. I guess I want to talk now around behaviour. So, and how behaviour and how management of behaviour works here at Padua. So the first thing is we have very high expectations, from the way the boys wear their uniform, to the way they interact with each other, to the way they interact with staff, to how they work in a classroom. But within that high expectations, they're not unrealistic because we believe we offer them very high support. I already talked around Chris Webb's role. There's another pastoral guardian as well, Chris Humphreys, who works within that role, and then there's myself. So we have what we call pastoral office there. So we all work together with the teachers to make sure that we're supporting the students, so that if they're having difficulties with behaviour, it's not just about punishment. And that's really, really important to know. We talk around restorative approach. A restorative approach is understanding that young men, young boys, are going to make mistakes along in their lives. And when they make those mistakes, if we just look to punish, not saying there are never any consequences here, I can assure you, but if we just look to punish, all we're doing is making them afraid, and we also aren't gaining the trust that we need to trust for them to learn. So a restorative approach really tries to get them to understand what they've done wrong, who that's affected, and how they can actually make up for that. It's a really powerful approach, and the conversations that happen within the office with a group of boys who may have had conflict, they're really powerful in the sense that they start to develop that empathy. They also start to be more honest, more truthful. Because the first thing they walk into our office, if they're worried about being in trouble, they're more than likely not going to be honest. So again, we're trying to teach them this concept of honesty, of taking responsibility for your actions. Yes, if you've done something wrong, you need to take responsibility for that, and you need to make up for that. To do that, you need to actually empathise with the person that you may have hurt. There are very, very, very few cases, if any, that I can remember at Padua College where it's been something that's been nasty. Now, the action may not have been pleasant, and it may have been nasty as far as a boy towards the other, but quite often it's because he hurt me 6 months ago, or he did this to me. So what we try and do is to break that cycle by bringing the boys together. Before I worked here, I worked at a school called Villanova College as well, now one of our enemies in the AIC, but I don't like to talk about that too much. And they were very, very strong in this approach, and the approach was very, very powerful, and we've seen the same here. What it does mean, though, is we communicate with you as much as we possibly can, not because we want you necessarily to go home and ground him, or take his computer off him, take his Xbox, whatever else what seems to work, but we really want you to continue to have those conversations with him as well. So Chris, myself, if something does go wrong, we actually communicate with you fairly regularly on that. Up on the screen are our behaviour levels. We call these behaviour levels. Your son next year will walk in and he will be on a level 4. Level 4 is what's expected. So what we're trying to do here, remember I talked about the learning, what we try and do here is again get the boys to understand, to set goals and to work towards those goals. So this year alone I would have had, as a head of school, I would have had 5 or 6 boys who have sent me an email saying, "Sir, I know I did this a couple of months ago, but I've been working really hard. Would you mind reviewing my behaviour level?" We find that really powerful when we've got an 11-year-old boy or a 10-year-old boy that's doing that. We have other boys that come up in the playground saying, "Sir, I'm on a 3, how can I get to a 2? So we want them talking about this. We want them really striving to move up, I guess, that ladder as such. Now, it is tough to get to a 1. It is tough, and particularly if for a year 5 to be in a 1, not that it's not possible, but Mr. Webb, I don't think we've got any this year. Would that be correct? We're considering some. And we have brilliant boys this year, of course. But it's really tough because sometimes it's around history. How long have you done this for? You moved into grade 6 and now we have some 1s in 6. Then, of course, this continues right across this side of the campus as well. To the extent in grade 12 there would be maybe 14, 20 boys that might be on a 1 there. So you can see we work hard. The boys have to work hard. We don't just give it, we want them to work hard. So 4 is the norm. So if your son's on a 4, he's doing everything fairly much right. He's wearing his uniform reasonably well. He's working reasonably well in class, not knocking it out of the park, but working reasonably well. On the playground, we're not dealing with him with any issues. That's the 4. That's what we expect here at Padua. To move to that 3, he really has to be showing his teacher that I want more. Look at the effort I'm putting in. He's working to achieve those goals. The teacher's not speaking to him about being distracting. That's the sort of thing where he starts to move to 3. He also has to show us that, but he's doing more than that. On a playground, he seems to be the boy that as we watch, and we watch without them actually knowing, he seems the boy that solved that conflict on the handball game or on the touch field or whatever else. He's the one that when someone got hurt, he genuinely, and that genuinely is obviously really important points because boys get onto it very quickly. If I just walk up to Mr. Downs and go, "Oh, I've got someone else I'm taking up to the office." So he's genuinely trying to help and therefore they can move up those behaviour levels. On the other side is the side you don't really want to be involved with. And that's the PI side, that's the pastoral intervention. So pastoral intervention means, unfortunately, your son's done something that we've considered below the standards here at Padua College. And pastoral intervention will normally mean that Chris will be involved and Chris will contact you. I may be involved and I may have contacted you as well. So sometimes it can be as simple as a conflict in a playground where we really thought that the boys didn't handle it well. He may move to that PI level for a short period of time, but what we're saying to him is, let's meet again in 2 weeks so we can move you back up there. We had some boys this year in year 6 who were on a level 2. Did a couple of really silly things and ended up on a PI 5. Within 4 or 5 weeks, they had moved back up again. They didn't go straight to a 2. We don't give them that. We say, okay, we'll move you to a 4. We'll keep an eye on you for the next couple of weeks. We'll move you to a 4. So hopefully, again, with that learning, you're starting to appreciate and understand that this is around boys being able to talk. Talk to where they are in their learning. Talk to where they are as far as contribution to the school. So when he comes home of an afternoon, you just say, hey, what's your behaviour level? It's also reported to you on report cards, but he should be able to speak to that. What can you do to actually get higher? So we give the boys out a matrix. We've done a rubric, a matrix there, and once a term they fill that rubric out and they fill that matrix out. And that's a reflection on where they are within this system here. So I'd like to think that, yes, we have those high expectations, but with these processes in place, it's certainly very supportive as well. So after orientation day, we sent a survey out to everyone and we got quite great responses. So first of all, thank you very much for that. The first thing I guess we loved seeing was the boys who were nervous at the start had become excited. The boys who maybe didn't want to go orientation day, all of a sudden wanted to go. Now, orientation really is about that. It's welcoming. We put on a sausage sizzle for starters, so you can't go wrong there. But we also played some design thinking games with them. We took them out for a little bit of sport. We did do a writing sample with them. And the writing sample, the idea of the short writing sample is when we get them into classes, we pass that sample on to next year's teacher, and they actually start to analyse that writing sample, and that starts to form their English program. These boys need help with this. These boys need help with this. So they were the 3 activities that we had for Orientation Day. Now, if I don't manage to answer your question that you did send me, I tried to sort of pick out the ones where they occurred multiple times. By all means, please come and see me at the end of the night, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Again, being really conscious that this becomes information overload. I had some Year 5 parents come February, and they just said to me, Brendan, there is too much information coming at us. The difficulty is that some parents want more, some parents want less. We give you basically everything we can, and for you hopefully to sort that through. Same thing though, if you find that next year and say, this is too much for me, then give me a call. Give me a call, we'll sit down, we'll meet, I'll really go through what's important, what you could probably forget for now that you might need a little bit later on. Because we do appreciate that when you come to a new school, and a school like Padua, there is a lot of information. So, survey questions. One of the first things we were asked was timetables. Your boys will be given out a paper copy timetable on their first day of school. And they will bring that timetable home, and on that timetable will tell him more importantly, but you as supporting him, when his PE is on, when his music is on. And so therefore, we recommend they put that up on the wall in the home somewhere, so that he remembers his PE gear, he remembers his music instruments, those sorts of things. When he receives his laptop, the timetable also appears on his computer. So you can open up the computer and say next day, and it'll have period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5. We have 5 periods in a day of 57 minutes. Although in the primary, obviously, we worked that a little bit differently because we would chunk that up into smaller chunks there. So you'll be able to see, and he'll be able to see what his timetable is for each day. We have specialists in music, and I'll talk about the music program very soon. We have specialists in music, we have specialists in health and physical education with 3 practical and 1 theory. So that's a 2-week cycle. We work on what we call a 10-day cycle. When I first came here, I had no idea what that was talking about. Basically, there's 1 to 5 in week 1, and then there's 6 to 10 in week 2. So it's a 10-day cycles, and then it goes back to the beginning there. So there's 3 practical, 1 theory. So he needs to bring his PE gear for three lessons out of the 2-week cycle. We have a specialist digital technologies teacher. Robotics, coding, those sorts of things which the boys absolutely love. We call that semester-based because if your son does it in semester 1, he won't do it in semester 2. We used to do 1 period of digital technologies and 1 period of Japanese. We found that by actually giving them 2 periods of digital technologies for the semester, and then the following semester 2 periods of Japanese, the boys, we're able to get them into a little bit deeper learning, 1 less subject that they have to worry about, and therefore they seem to enjoy it a little bit more. So that's our specialists and timetable. Music. So Year 5 music is compulsory. When I say it's compulsory, there is an option for if your son's really struggling with it, he just can't quite get the coordination, or it's something that is causing so much stress and so much anxiety at home and at school, then he has the option then of joining the vocal group. And some boys choose the vocal group. They want to learn how to sing, they enjoy singing, so they actually choose that. Others will choose it because they're saying, the instrument's not working for me. As with everything, we talk about developing those resilient learners. So if your son starts and it's a little bit hard, we do ask that you say to him, we've got to push through this. This is about, again, we're trying to develop those resilient learners within that learning framework that we talked about earlier. There are 5 ensemble days a year, and you get plenty of notice with this. Ensemble days means that there's a whole day, 5 times a year, dedicated to music, where they really do focus on learning the instrument. And, all going well next year, there's 2 concerts that you can come to. The first one at halfway through the year, and the second one at the end of the year. And they are amazing. Because, of course, when your son starts his musical instrument and he's practicing at home, which I'm sure he will, then that sound is going to hurt for a while. It certainly does get better, though. So it's important that you continue to push him for that, because when you sit at those concerts as a parent, you're amazed by how much your son has progressed. And it's quite an incredible experience there. The boys can combine Year 5 music with what we call FCIP. FCIP is Franciscan College's instrumental program. It runs parallel to our Year 5 music, but if your son's already learning the violin, for example, then he may join the FCIP, and then he would learn another instrument as part of his Year 5 music program there. So FCIP, they can have lessons during class, so we would withdraw them from class, and obviously you need to enrol in this. They then have morning ensembles, so one day a week, on a Tuesday morning, for example, it might be a Wednesday, might be a Thursday, they would come to an ensemble, and that is in addition to the Year 5 music program. Once the year has finished, and your son's been learning that wonderful instrument for a year, then you can then choose, look, we want to drop the music now, he'll still do classroom music, or we want to join the FCIP. So we want him to continue his music throughout for however long, and hopefully throughout the remainder of his time at the college there. The next question was around uniforms. And you can see Geordie and Jack looking very relaxed in their classroom. So this uniform is what we call our summer uniform. It has the grey pants, it has the long socks, it's got the wide-brimmed hat there with the shirt. That's his summer uniform. On the first day when he comes next year, this is the uniform that he would wear. And while the picture's not close enough, I'm sure both those boys have very polished shoes as well. And hopefully both those boys have the garters that keep their socks up so that we don't have to remind them about that. So that's the summer uniform. The only difference between the summer uniform, which is term 1 and 4, and the winter uniform for our Greccio boys, for the primary boys, is that they wear a tie in term 2 and 3. And that's always a fun thing to happen at home as well, teaching them how to tie a tie. So summer uniform, no tie, winter uniform, tie. When it comes to sport, they wear their house shirt. Is the best thing. So I'll say that again. When it comes to PE, so remember they have 3 lessons for that fortnight, the easiest thing to do is for them to wear their house shirt, which is their coloured shirt, and you've been given those house allocations is my understanding, so hopefully you know what colour you're looking for now. They wear their little Padua socks. We used to have the ones that more were ankle, we've now gone to more the sockettes. So they wear those, and it is important they wear the correct uniform. They wear their black Padua shorts. So there's a black pair of shorts that has been included in your uniform list, and they can wear either their wide-brimmed hat, or they can wear the hat on the right-hand side there, which is called the spirit cap. They can wear the spirit cap on a Friday also. On a Friday we give them the option of that spirit cap. We have spirit assemblies on a Friday to try and create that connectedness to Padua, that spirit, so when they go out and they go and beat Ashgrove on a Saturday, they cheer their war cry, they're excited. So that's the sort of things that we look at building there as well. So PE, 3 times a fortnight, coloured shirt, black shorts, Padua socks, and either hat. So hopefully that's it. There were lots of questions about the uniform, which is completely understandable, so hopefully that clears them up there now. Now the uniform shop will be open, it's the 18th to the 23rd of January. Now I know that some of you have got in early, so well done. And I believe there was a time this Saturday it was opening up. I believe that's actually fully booked, but still well done if you got into that time. But you've now been sent your uniform list is my understanding, and we'll send out a link later on this month as to how to book in for those uniform times. As you can appreciate, it's a really busy time, so it's those 5 days that we put aside to open up the uniform shop so you can get your uniforms there. And the first day, the boys will receive their Padua bucket hat, their wide-brimmed hat, but they won't have it when they come to school. and it may not get across there until lunchtime. And it's a couple of years there has been where they've got on the second day instead of the first. We obviously rely on suppliers there. So they can wear any hat. So that first day they'll be saying, what hat do I wear? They can wear their old school hat if they wish, but if you just want them to wear a casual hat, then by all means they can wear that. The hope is, as soon as they turn up, one of the first things that we do is we actually hand their hats out to them. We hand their Padua wide brim. The spirit cap, that comes a little bit later on. So that might come into week 2, it might come into week 3 where they actually get their spirit cap there. So that's uniforms. Hopefully that's answered some of your questions there. Someone asked a question around leaders. And do the leaders have much to do with the primary boys? Probably more than ever. Our newly elected 2021 leaders have already been across for an assembly once a week and cheered on the war cries with the boys. They have been across there playing handball with the Greccio boys. So we really do encourage that interaction between the older boys and the younger boys. And the younger boys look up to them like they're the most important person in the world. So we certainly do that. In addition, this year we kicked off what we call our Year 5 and 10 buddy program. So we're a Year 10 student, and they have to nominate for that. The Year 10 students are allocated a couple of Year 5 students. And they do all sorts of things with them. They go and play with them at lunchtime. They do reading in a classroom as well. They'll go over during what we call pastoral care time, that first 20 minutes of the morning, and they'll read with those boys. And next year, to launch the program, we've actually got a breakfast organised where we're hopefully in here, all going well again, hopefully in here, and the boys will sit down with their Year 10 buddy and they'll enjoy a breakfast together. So that's our Year 10 buddy program, in addition to the seniors obviously going across. Been really successful, the Year 10 buddy program. We would have, since we kicked it off about halfway through this year, every lunch break we would have at least 20 Year 10s over there playing handball, playing touch football, refereeing touch football, whatever else it might be. So it's been a really, really successful program there. Mobile phones and computers. Tanya's already touched on the computer, but I'd like to sort of reinforce a couple of things here. First of all, phones need to be put away between 8 and 3. Our policy is quite clear. 2 years ago now we said no mobile phones between 8 and 3. Mobile phone basically means a detention on a Friday. We needed a black and white rule there because there are all sorts of ways that boys would get around the rules if we didn't have it black and white. For the primary boys, that's really never an issue, by the way. I don't know that we've ever had to really deal with a boy who's had his phone out when he shouldn't have been. The boys can hand their phone into the office though. Mrs. Vickers, who's our wonderful lady across in the primary office, she will have a yellow envelope. It'll have the boy's name on it. He slips it in that envelope. She puts it away for the day, and at the afternoon he comes and picks it up. To be honest, it's probably the safest way for him to store his mobile phone. Rather than having it in his bag, rather than having it on his person, all of a sudden it rings and we have to then deal with that. So the safest way is probably handing it to the office. When it comes to the computers, and we really do ask this one because when we talked around behaviours before, one of the biggest things we deal with is computers. Boys who have got games on their computers and they cannot help themselves when they're meant to be working, and they decide that no, playing that game would be more important than doing the English that they're meant to be doing. We have a fairly blanket rule with that as well. We have no tolerance for boys who again don't want to see their learning as really important. So again, no games and apps would be fantastic. If you put a game or an app on there, then we would suggest your son deletes that before he comes back to school. The other one's just around developing safe practices around technology use. You know, the use of phones, the use of computers. Again, we deal with a range of situations. Some you would be thinking, how could that ever happen in grade 5? How could that happen to my son in grade 5 where he's on that side or whatever else it might be? But it does. And so therefore, encouraging safe practices, you know, computers out of bedrooms, phones out of bedrooms, whatever it may be, a place to study so you're actually keeping an eye on them, those sorts of things as well, we really do encourage. And we say that from experience because, as I said, we know that, we know some of the sites that unfortunately that are open to them. We know that we're dealing with that on a regular basis. We know the temptation of games. So So all those things are things that we sort of deal with on a pretty regular basis. So any support you can give us there will be fantastic. The other one is just making sure the computer's charged at night. The boys may use the computers for 2 hours, 3 hours a day. If it's not charged, then obviously that's going to affect his learning there. Next question was around tuck shop. Tuck shop is right here. As soon as you walk out the door, the tuck shop is on the on the left-hand side there. We let the primary boys out 5 minutes early. So they come across 5 minutes early. We supervise them. We have a supervisor on the crossing, so it's all very safe. They come across here, and all going well, they get in that line first. All going well means if they come across straight away. They get in the line first, they get their food, and they get out before the bigger boys come across. We allow cash in the first couple of weeks. I think it was 3 weeks this year, but after 3 weeks, you need to have set up what we call a Flexi Schools account. Go into Flexi Schools and it'll be there. And it's connected, it's attached to his ID card. So he'll have an ID card. The photos, I believe, are week 2, and then the ID cards normally come about week 3, maybe week 4. And he then just goes up to the tuck shop and buys, not what he wants, of course, what you've asked him to, and he clicks away, and then from there, it takes it off his account. Before that, after the cash is finished, or if you've already set up that account, then he can do that through his student ID, and we give him a little piece of paper with his student ID there. Just one reminder is that for the primary boys, while the tuck shop opens 2 breaks, the first and second, we only allow them to come over in the first break for that tuck shop. That second break's quite short, it's about 20 minutes there. So they were the questions on tuck shop. Hopefully they've been answered. Stationery, hopefully the good news for you is there's no book lists. You don't have to go to Officeworks, you don't have to put it through SQL. We actually provide the stationery, and we actually charge you through the levy. Now, and the reason we did that, 2 reasons. One is with the type of spaces that we have, sharing equipment has been common. Again, we've had to change that clearly this year, and we need to obviously review what that looks like next year. However, the other one was around cost. We can provide the stationery to your boys for 1/3 of the costs. The book lists were about $284 the last time we had a book list for grade 5. And as I said, we get that for about 1/3 of the cost. And hopefully, it also saves you the hassle of getting out there and having to try and track down those books. So hopefully that's a good thing for you. Class allocations, we don't actually release our classes until next year. So we have a meet and greet. It's Monday the 25th of January, and we'd love you to come in. You see what class your son is in. He then goes and meets his teacher, and you go and meet the teacher as well. It's always between 2 and 3. Now, 2 and 3 means it doesn't start at 2 necessarily. You can come any time between that 2 and 3. So if you stagger your time, sometimes it spreads it out a little bit more. So that's when you'll see your son. We are really conscious that that's one of the most anxious periods, but also one of the most exciting periods. Again, experience probably shows us that sometimes releasing it before the start of in other words, the end of this year, can actually have worse effects than actually holding on and actually releasing it next year. So hence why I had reasons for that. Before and after school, we had a couple of questions about that. Supervision starts at 8 o'clock each morning. So we'll have a teacher on duty. It's normally either one of the leadership team members, that I introduced you before, myself, Chris Webb or Chris Humphreys there. After school care, for those people inquiring about that, it's actually run through centre care. So it's not connected to the school, but they certainly use the school facilities, and they also use the parish hall there. So that's before and after school. If that's what you're looking for, by all means we'll get you some information on to how to access that too. Camps. Our Year 5 camps are held in week 4 and 5 of term 1. It's a 2-night camp. They go away in what we call pods, so 2 classes in one. It's a great camp. It's early, and yes, we work with a number of students, not a lot, but a number of students around that anxiety of leaving home. But can I assure you, again, your sons always show their resilience, because when they get on the camp, they have a great time. They come home completely exhausted, but generally they do really well. And obviously we're experienced with homesickness as well, so if they are homesick, we support them through that. Why the camp so early? Because remember, when we start Padua, it's all about connectedness, making friends. That's really, really important. And the opportunity to take them away on camp and do that is certainly a worthwhile experience. Just keep an eye out early, probably about week 1, week 2, because we'll ask for medical forms to be filled out and we'll ask for permission forms there as well. Communication. Scott touched on this a little bit before. It's a little bit different. When I first sent my son here, my oldest son, 10 years ago, I think it was 10 years ago, I was amazed because I thought, they don't tell me any information. Well, we actually do. It's just trying to find the right place. First of all, your sons have information. We talk your sons through many things, and they have information. However, as Scott alluded to before, everything is on the app. If I could give you one piece of advice as to how to keep up with the school and what's happening in the school and how live it is, it's around that Padua app. So that's really, really important there. We have a fortnightly newsletter that goes out as well. You'll get emails from teachers. You'll get what we call behaviour notification from teachers. So your son hasn't done his homework a couple of times, you'll get an email from teachers saying, hey, he hasn't done his homework. You'll get positive ones as well, so your son's done something really well and you'll get a positive one saying, hey, he's done particularly well there. So certainly the app though, more than anything else, I'd suggest that that's what you look to. When you get your My Padua account and you can open it up, then you'll have your calendars there. So you'll be able to see exactly what's happening in the year. If you're after term time dates at the moment, then our website would be the best place to go to there. How can your son make the most of Padua? What makes a successful Paduan, a good man of Padua? The first thing is obviously clear communication between school and home. If all of a sudden your son's, or not all of a sudden, if your son's feeling anxious, it might be week 3, contact the teacher. They're fantastic. They're happy to get your emails. They're happy to help you out there. If there's a problem and someone's treating him poorly in the playground, contact Chris, contact myself, contact the teacher and let them know. Because again, we really want his time here at Padua to be successful. Set up those organisational structures at home. Remember I talked about that timetable, putting it up on the board, having a whiteboard, making sure he's filling it out. Routines about packing his bag the night before. All those, we will come back to that learning framework about developing self-directed, independent learners. Where yes, they're only 9 and 10 years old, but they learn really quickly that if they take responsibility for themselves, they feel like young men. So certainly passing that on. Sometimes it's hard as parents because we want to protect them. And there will always be time we will protect them, but if you can let them take that responsibility, we see them grow so much more. And then obviously for yourself, just becoming involved as you can. So how do you do that? There's P&F meetings, sports managing and coaching, and Scott talked about this. We have care packages that we provide for our families when a family member might be ill. It might be the mum's ill or the dad's ill. We certainly have our parent supporters group. And every year level has a pastoral care parent, and there are always social events that are organised throughout the year. So we really encourage you to make sure you get to those social events. And finally, starting the school year. So an electronic file will be sent to you shortly with more information about fees, music, requests for updated details. We used to do them in a pack, but we've moved that electronic. So that will be sent to you, we're hoping in the next week. We're just waiting on some finalisation of information there. You have your meet and greet on Monday the 25th of January, and we really do look forward to seeing your son there. We look forward to seeing you there where you get to meet his teacher, he gets to meet his teacher, he gets excited about the class that he's going to be in. Day 1 on that Wednesday, Tuesday's Australia Day, on the Wednesday, you're welcome to drop your son off because of course you've already met his teacher, or we take the boys into the dome, the outdoor sports area there, and that's where we welcome you and we welcome your sons officially to Padua College there. The first 3 weeks is about developing a connectedness. It's about your sons understanding what it means to be a Paduan, about meeting friends, making new friendships, and becoming excited about the fact that he's at this new school and he wants to do so well at this new school. So we don't actually focus heavily on our curriculum. We do on our maths, we do on our science, we certainly have RE in there, we certainly have elements of science and HASS and those subjects, but the main focus is on these inductions. Treasure hunts, finding out who St. Francis was, doing tours of the school to understand the history of the school. We want your son to be connected. If he's connected, then he's going to be happy. Talked about the hats already. The ID photos will be taken week 3, actually. There you go. So I've checked that and it's actually week 3, and then he'll have his ID not long after that. Already talked about the timetables. We've talked about the computer distribution, and then the parent information night, which is a chance for you again to listen to the teacher, to listen to them around their structures, routines in their classrooms, all right, and again for you to have an opportunity to have a quick chat with the teacher. At the start, remember I talked about information overload. So much information there for you. I hope you can just take a little bit out, and tomorrow my first job will be to make sure I transfer this to a PDF and send this out to you. I hope you enjoyed the night. I hope it was certainly informative for you. Certainly look forward to working with all of you over the next 2 years, but even over the next 8 years at Padua College. Thank you very much.
Well, there you go, folks. Thank you very much to Brendan Downs, Head of Primary. We've heard from Scott Maguire and Tanya Anderson. Hopefully they've answered all of your questions, but if they haven't, we'll have staff remaining behind to answer specific questions. A couple of things around tonight. Brendan did give a mention around staying involved. Our parent supporters group, FCIP, also have a parent group, and I am currently looking for a president of the Parents and Friends. So if that is you, what a wonderful way to begin the journey as president. So don't hold back. Come forward and say, I'd love to be president. I can't anoint you tonight, I can't appoint you tonight, I should say, but we will have a meeting early next term if that is you, and it's a wonderful way, and I would encourage you to get along to those meetings, but Brendan also went through other ways in which you can be involved. Scott did mention sports uniforms. I will be up front and say at the moment we are looking at new sports uniforms. It won't mean anything for you next year. The current sports uniforms will continue to be for Year 5s, but we are in the process of having a look at all of our sporting uniforms and involving parents in that decision making, and that will be there'll be announcements in that area going forward as well. So there will be new sports uniforms, but for the benefit of you, all you need to do is focus in on the current sports uniforms. But if there are available second-hand and so forth, certainly try and access those if you can, but there will be an upgrade to sports uniforms in the future. That's it for tonight. Hopefully you are leaving, like I said, with those things in mind. Firstly, around that we do boys' education well. Brendan would have spoken about the belonging, coming in and your son being connected and the importance of that. That's the most important part. So coming in here the first few weeks, making sure that they are connected, and that's the purpose of tonight, that you're also connected. Staff will remain behind to answer your questions. We are certainly available on email. There will be a package going out to you as well. But I do say to you, thank you. Thank you for coming. We look forward to the journey of the next 8 years, an exciting journey, and if you have any other questions, please stay behind and we'll answer those. But if not, safe journey home, and I'll see you all here in 2021. Thank you.